Hi, everyone. Sorry about that. We're running a little bit behind. Josh and Greg and everyone will be joining us here in just a quick second. So yeah, this is still on. I appreciate it. Sorry we'll probably just be a couple minutes behind. We end up getting a little bit busier than expected this morning. So we will be starting here in just a little bit. So more than happy to kind of, if people have questions or anything kind of about what this is about. Basically, this first one is going to be our kind of going over drafts for anyone who is or isn't familiar with the drafting feature in Gen. This is probably our newest feature that we have here in the system so far. Looks like we just got, oh, Josh is on as well. There we go. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Thanks everybody for joining today. Thanks Josh Sennett for keeping everybody occupied for a few moments there. Had a user call go over. So anyway, a demo go over, so to speak. So duty called. I'm here now. We are going to talk about drafts. I just finished talking about this, so hopefully it'll be fresh in my mind. I have some slides prepared. Obviously, this is all relatively new. Even if it's not new as a concept, it's new as sort of like implemented products for your firms. So we want to give plenty of space at the end to answer any questions, right? So this is all very open for discussion. Whatever medium you've joined the call today, whatever product you're using to jump on today, there should be some way you can send comments or submit questions. We'll both be available here. I also have our sort of next to me. I can't switch my screen, but Emily Cohen is in the room with me as well. She's one of our drafts gurus. She's over the product, and so hopefully we can get to anything that comes up. So I'm going to pull up really quickly. One second, I'll pull up everything here, and we'll get started.
Perfect. Yeah, again, appreciate everyone for being patient with us. Always hectic here. Well, we're always here, but always a little busy.
Absolutely. So I'm going to try the screen share thing.
Yeah, sounds good.
There we go. And here we are.
Perfect. Here, I'll even I'll make a full screen for us as well. There you go.
How's that? Is that pretty good?
Yeah, everyone see that all right?
Okay. Yeah, I think this should be a good setup here. Okay. Well, today's all about drafts. We have other aspects of our product. In fact, drafts has not been moved really officially from beta stage. We're going to move it early next year into what we're calling a preview stage. I guess that's what people call things when they're in between having a beta product and essentially like monetizing a software or like establishing it as a sort of like a standalone offering. We just really want to continue to get feedback. Our goal is on quality, right? So we haven't spent as much time thinking about all the other components of the software, which we are really close to kind of getting started on, but we're really just wanting to make sure the outputs are acceptable to, immigration lawyers and their teams. It kind of meets those initial tests. So this is all about drafts today. Today's agenda is really straightforward, just a really high level. What is Visa Law, in case you're not familiar with our team or our product? What is Gen Drafts, which is this kind of advanced drafting capability. We might look at a few outputs as well, just to kind of give you a sense of kind of like what we're talking about when we say advanced drafts and drafts like briefs and letters. And then I'll do a quick walkthrough, kind of overview of the steps involved in the drafting flow. And then, of course, talk about the roadmap and any Q&A there at the end. So we'll just dive right in. What is Visa Law? Visa Law is a legal tech company. We started really back in 2020, but are now focused as of January 2024 on generative AI capabilities for immigration law firms. So our banner is we aim and strive to be the premier AI product for immigration law as a whole. And so our company launched a product in January focused on research. And I always say research in quotations because I've talked to 10 immigration lawyers, 7 or 8 of them are going to tell you, well, we don't really do research, or at least not in the way that we perceive it in terms of, general case research products. Well, that's fine because our product is built specifically for immigration lawyers. We have a proprietary immigration data set, which we are continuing to build out and establish additional use cases for. We now, obviously that includes citations to both primary resources and secondary materials through our select publishers. We are really close to releasing some additional features, which include inline citations, as well as now we've extended to include all of the case law, not just the immigration specific parts of the law. And we have some other capabilities that sort of surround that research tool, which are AI-based chat, document analysis, translation. We're about to release a certified translation capability in literally a matter of days. I know we've been promising it for a while. Just bear with us. We're so close. And then, of course, summarization and again, some of these other AI capabilities we're all becoming more and more familiar with as it relates to generating text and reports and analyzing things. So that's really where it all started. But really, probably more importantly, who is Visa Law, right? Like our team. Greg Siskind, who some of you may know, is a lawyer, founding partner of law firm Siskind Susser. Our founding team is myself, and then 3 other experienced immigration lawyers. My goal is really on the product side of things. I've been working in operations at an immigration firm now for coming on 10 years, which is crazy to believe. But we essentially created Visa Law AI out of a desire to serve immigration firms outside of our own firm, right? Like we saw that we were building some things and really wanted to make those products available to a wider audience. And then 2024, long story short, we decided to move into generative AI into that space. And we're hopeful really at the beginning that we weren't actually going to build a product. We familiar with Casetext and CoCounsel, and they were doing some really great things, got some early access to that. That product, but realized it didn't necessarily, it wasn't necessarily like a one-to-one for the immigration use case for multiple reasons. And so at that point in mid 2023, we decided to branch out and really focus entirely on a generative AI research tool, which then led to what we're going to talk about today, which is drafting. This is really funny. I just created another image using this was OpenAI. I feel like every time I use the imaging model, it's always not quite there, but it's like every time I use it, it's getting better and better. So I can't remember exactly the prompt I had for that image, but it was basically like show like the automation or efficiency of like streamlining brief writing and draft, sort of like petition drafting, and I gave it some other like context. But yeah, it's still I guess there's always room to grow here. With the technology, but it was just an interesting kind of thing. So for drafts, we are still, like I say, we're in this beta stage where everything is available at no additional charge to our users. We're committed to remaining that way at least through much of January of next year. Obviously, we'll notify our entire user base and alert everyone to any changes in pricing. We do have an arrangement in place with Ayla where we're going to continue to offer a free use of the product per month for every law firm that's on our platform. So just know that you will continue to have, if you are a subscriber to Visa Law AI, you will continue to have free access to the drafts area in perpetuity. Of course, if your volume of usage gets higher, we'll make some kind of hopefully agreeable structure for you. But essentially, our product as it exists today is made up of what I've identified as 5 primary features. One is the initial document categorization that happens. Initially, this was a really painful process. It sounds like we're talking about, I'm almost thinking about this now like this was an issue that existed like 5 years ago, but it was really like 5 or 6 months ago that we were trying to figure out how to like use AI to intelligently categorize, sort, summarize these documents. Basically, this is all the supporting documentation that would be required to draft a brief or a petition letter. Then you have what is essentially the exhibit list review tool or builder tool. It allows you to review all of these documents, reorder them. And then we have the template builder, which is basically giving firms the ability to upload your own example documents, structure them in a way that's meaningful and and basically, like what I say is your secrets. These are your secret sauce examples, your own example, likely from previous cases, right? Like, oh, I just completed this EB1 case. Now I have this really good sample for like a research data scientist or something, right? And I want to reuse that example. And then we have the actual drafting work that's happening. So that's the petition brief drafting. That is to draft, again, these complex petition briefs and letters. And then finally, the packet assembly. I'm aware that certain systems already include packet assembly in terms of case management and project management, but we also include that capability in case your firm just wants to utilize that additional component. So this is what exists today. We'll later on talk about what's coming down the road, but I wanted to at least share now a few example outputs with you all. We thought it might be a better idea before just like diving into like all the different steps of doing something to just give you an example right out of the gate. So I'm going to share my screen and kind of, I'm actually going to move to a Word file here. Josh, are there any outstanding questions or things that have come up since we got going?
Yeah, so nothing crazy. Just for anyone asking, we will have a recording of this after the webinar is over. It'll be posted up on our YouTube channel as well. So we'll still have information for all this up once we're done too. Also, for any questions or things like that, feel free to throw them in the chat. We'll make sure that we have time and do a nice little Q&A here and try and answer them as we're going through here as well. So just keep us posted. And like I said, if you have questions as we kind of show you the examples or as we show you the steps, more than happy to answer those along the way too.
Absolutely. So I'm going to show you an example EB1. This would be, again, every firm kind of refers to these things as different. Somebody call it a brief, somebody call it a petition letter, a cover letter, the thing that goes at the very top of the petition. Again, our focus initially is on the language, the text, the output. We're currently in the process of building out all these other customization features, right? Like the formatting of the file, right? Like say your firm really likes to have the logo up to the top. Say you really like Times New Roman 12 double spaced, hopefully not double spaced. That takes me back to primary school and typing up essays. But basically, essentially having it the exact sort of formatting you want. We're getting to all of that. That's all going to be in the works here very soon. But ultimately, at the very early stages here, we're just wanting to make sure that you have a petition brief that is of equal or greater quality to someone who would be writing this internally at your firm, or that you would be outsourcing this work to at your firm. So that's what our hope is here. And this is an example. So first, this is an example EB1 cover letter, and I showed it in the slide really quickly. But basically, the kind of things I wanted to highlight are, this is, of course, these drafts are done section by section. The user has, you as the user have flexibility in terms of how you want to cite things throughout the document, right? So we have a tabbed approach. We have the exhibit list approach. We also, for various processes, can cite to specific areas in the policy manual or other law, sort of like research data that's part of the sort of context, or what we call the context, which is like what's considered when it's drafting this. So we do have those materials behind the scenes that it can cite from, of course. But as I sort of scroll through here, you can see certain sections that are tabbed. Of course, we'll share these examples later for anyone who's on the call who wants to sort of get a closer look at what an example output would be. But essentially, everything will be tabbed or will be part of that exhibit. And in addition, we also pull certain quotes from the supporting documentation. All of this happens sort of as a single swoop right now, and I'll show you kind of the steps that happen to get to this output. We're planning to make more improvements so that allow for real-time editing of the document and what we call reprompting of the document. So say you didn't like the quote that was pulled from the recommendation letter, then the goal is like you could basically hover over that, redraft that section according to, that maybe you can refer to the section you wanted to have a quote from, or just ask it to consider something different. And all those capabilities will get there. Right now, again, we're just focused on this initial kind of qualitative assessment of the outputs. So again, these are all the evidentiary categories for the EB1 case, evidence of authorship of scholarly articles in the field, and professional or major trade publications or other major media. This example is a trapeze artist, so I'm trying to see like some of the things we were kind of joking about, some of the things that they highlighted as the quadruple swing. What was the other one we were talking about? Okay, so
reverse twist.
The reverse twist. So this individual has some groundbreaking routines, including the reverse twist and the quadruple swing. And so we'll see kind of later on as we scroll down in the document some of the recommendation letters that actually have quotes, kind of explaining from those expert opinion letters the importance of those things. So yeah, I'll just kind of continue to scroll down here. Obviously, you can just see this is a 17-page document. So, it can be substantial based on the amount of supporting documents that you provide the system. So before I lose you too much here in the weeds of this document, I'm just going to find a quote so you can see what I mean. Bear with me. Right, so here we go. Mario consistently delivers excellence. His dedication to perfecting each move inspires everyone around him. See support letter 1 at tab 4. So that would be an example of, again, a quote, and then another quote from a recommendation letter. Mario Supremo is the beating heart of Cirque du Atlantis. His presence ensures that our circus remains not just relevant, but legendary. And again, as background, Mario Supremo is a trapeze artist.
From Cirque du Atlantis.
From Cirque du Atlantis.
Very extraordinary.
Very, very extraordinary. It's, the double twist especially. So again, this was just based on 11 documents. This essentially 16-page document was based on these sort of 11 documents that were provided to the system. This is an example EB1 sort of draft that our system generated. And now I'll stop there and share a 601A output. Interesting. I see Emily's responding to some of the questions already, which is great. Feel free to keep those coming. Give me 1 second. I will share the 601A and we can kind of walk it down really quickly. Nothing revolution. Nothing's going to be super surprising compared to what I just showed you, but just so you know that we can also generate other process types. And we have many more in the works. So it's not just, again, it's not just extraordinary ability. It's not just employment based. We are focused on expanding into other areas. We've been prototyping some early stage asylum drafts, obviously looking at other areas like cancellation removal, BIA, briefs, and then we're prototyping. I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver just yet, but we are prototyping as well some RFE response generation. We obviously can do some RFE analysis. We have some RFE analysis capabilities in our research tool, but we want to expand out and actually start working on the responses, just to give other attorneys this additional tooling that, unfortunately will likely need in the coming years. But the 601A, I think, can you see this, Josh? Is this coming through?
Okay. Yeah. Yep. You're all good.
Awesome.
I would say maybe, I might zoom in a little bit though, just to make it bigger for everyone in the chat. Yeah, there you go.
All right. Okay. Thanks. So this is another example of a tabbed approach to this is a tabbed approach to the sort of supporting documents. So it also, and this is a 601A again, it also cites the section, I guess, of an admissibility here. Sort of scrolling down, you can see it pulls from the CFR. meets the requirements. Waiver under 212I. So I'm trying to see what the extreme hardship categories are.
Go down just a little.
Let's see things. Okay, so we got medical hardship here. Chronic medical conditions that require ongoing management support. And again, just for reference, all of this is completely fictional. All of the information that's as part of these documents, right? So I just wanted to clarify on that. The psychological and emotional hardship.
And all of these two are being pulled directly from the uploaded documentation as well. So this isn't
anxiety conditions that have been significantly exacerbated by the ongoing uncertainty surrounding Maria's immigration status. Initial kind of output, these would be quotes, not an underscore. So that's something we've since improved. So that's no problem there. See therapy notes at tab 7. So you can see it's still citing all the relevant information, financial and professional hardship. Personal and family hardship.
Seems like you're cutting out a little bit here for just a second there.
Okay. So if I keep cutting out, just let me know. We've also provided the BIA relevant sort of decisions as part of the document. And then you can see at the end the appendix. Is there anything else of importance to note there?
All information based on uploaded documents related to the case.
Exactly. So, but to reiterate, documents that are relevant for the case that have been considered. So I'll go ahead and reshare my slides again. And again, we'll make these example documents readily available after the call today. I think what we'll do is just share the slide deck, and we'll have links to the documents in the slide deck. So I'm going to go ahead and reshare the slides. Let's jump back over. So those are outputs. And again, just kind of high level, we think it takes the longer side of things, especially with some of the more recent updates we've made. But again, in comparison to what has been, a several hour process, we might be talking about 10 to 12 hours, right? So what I'll do now is do a really quick walkthrough. Because this process, again, can take several minutes, I think what I'm going to do I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to do a 2-minute sort of high level stream, kind of sped up version of all of this. And then I'm going to actually go into the product and kind of show you where all this happens. So that was kind of my approach here, because I think a lot of times we get into the demo and it's kind of just, you're dragging on, and you kind of forget what we're actually doing. So essentially there are 3 major steps to drafting a brief, a petition letter. And this all starts after you've collected all the information from the client, right? So think about the things happening generally in your case management system, which are sending out an intake to a client, collecting this information, collecting all the documents, all the supporting documents, all of that, the form filling, all the things that your case management system is already doing really well for you, things that have, we don't see a need to reinvent that wheel, right? There are several really good case management providers out there doing this for you all. So again, that's just a part of your already existing workflow. Where we step in is we say, okay, now that you've gotten all of that information, let's create a project and start importing all of that data. So we have some tools that make that really streamlined, and I'll show those in a second. Once you've uploaded your supporting documentation, you would just simply review that list of documents, essentially creating your exhibit list. We do have some optional steps in here. So one of them would be if you wanted to have the system or the AI generate your what we call expert opinion letters or recommendation letters, support letters, you could do that as sort of a prerequisite, or you could do that just at any point along the way if you wanted to. include those as part of your drafting, as part of this drafting flow for your firm. Our system does have that capability to draft those documents. And then also optionally, you can have the system, you can import or upload one of your own previous letters or example petition letters as what we call a custom template. But essentially, once you've reordered all the documents, the last step is just verifying a few fields, and it will move into drafting. So those are the 3 steps: uploading the documents, reviewing the documents, and then just reviewing some of the data that was pulled from those documents at its core, interface functionality. What you see, that's essentially all there is. So I'll just go ahead and do I'm trying out a sort of a different kind of tutorial tool. It's called Scribe. I'm going to change my sharing really quickly. I realize I need to change it.
So lots of bouncing around today on this, but it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Emily has been answering most of the questions too in the chat. So I appreciate that, Emily. So yeah.
Absolutely. So this is kind of cool. I'm using a Scribe, and this has nothing to do with our product, right? I'm not a Scribe ambassador. I've taken like a step-by-step instruction, and now they have this feature where you can turn it into a movie. So I'm going to actually play out as a sort of slow movie here, the steps of completing a draft in our platform, and kind of talk through it with you. So yeah, let's go ahead. So the first step when you go into our platform is to simply create what we call a draft project. So there's this really big, bright card that says create new draft. You'll click that. And then you simply will assign that you'll select a process type and give it a name. So you could use your own internal naming conventions, a case number, what have you, whatever seems to work best. And in our current list of process types that we support, we also, when we first release a process type, we put it in beta. And what that means is there will never be any cost to beta process types. This is just new. We need feedback. We need more usage. And so we will designate certain individual process types as they're being released as in quote unquote beta. I know our entire drafts yeah.
Is there a full screen on this one in the corner down there to make this bigger?
It's not going to work the same. I'll zoom in a little bit more.
Okay. No worries.
Let me do something here.
That's better. Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. Is that better? Okay.
Yep.
Unfortunately, they don't have a full screen, so maybe somebody could reach out to
No worries.
Request. But that's so that's really it, right? It's I know drafts is technically in beta. We'll be moving into preview. So basically all I'm saying is as we release new process types, they will be free to use, free to test. We're open to your feedback. I know a lot of folks have actually asked for this annotated document list, which I don't even know if I was supposed to talk about that today, but I know a lot of folks have been asking just for that capability. And I think it's also in beta, which just gives you all the documents that you provided the system in this really nice annotated list. So we're happy to get folks to test that out as they want to. But anyway, create a project, give it a name. We're all set. Yep. So then I will create a project. Step 1 of 4 completed. Then once you've created a project, you simply click on the row. It'll create a new row in our table, in this table, and you will click that row. And you'll see what we call the project dashboard. This project dashboard will include all of the main components of the entire drafting exercise. Again, that first step being just uploading the files. You can drag and drop an entire folder. You can select all on the files and just drag and pull them over to the upload box, or you may already have certain documents already stored in your library, which is just like a document repository. It's really up to you. Of course, we are hopeful in the next few months to have multiple methods for you to quickly import data, not just upload. So I'll leave that there for now. We're really hopeful we can find some more effective ways of getting your files into Visa AI. But essentially, at this point, it's an upload step. Unfortunately, I know that this is actually this is the longest step. This is the most time-consuming step still. And so basically you would upload all those files. The system would start processing them. You'll notice I know it's kind of blurry in the back right here, but it'll just have this little status tab that just says processing documents. And it will also have a little indicator in the bottom right of the screen that as it's processing the documents, you'll start to see the circle fill up, and it'll tell you what percentage is done. And it'll notify you. It'll be a little card that pops up that says your files have been processed, or, the documents have been completely processed, so you can go into this next step. So the next step would be to simply review the document list in order. And what this means is when you click on this button, you'll see this long list of all your supporting documents. We already have a huge swath of improvements to make that we've already identified with our team and are close to releasing them. We want to improve the categorization area. We want to give you more capabilities in terms of like editing these files, deleting these files, and all those good things. So right now it's just a simple reorder, rename capability. And once you have made the necessary changes to your documents, you can simply click save, and it will save all of that order into the system. And again, just for clarity, this is the exhibit list, right? This is the order of the documents that will be generated in that exhibit list, and ultimately in the full packet once that's ready to be assembled.
Also, the names of the documents as they'll be cited and appear in the exhibit list.
Right. So you would want to make sure that the names line up with what you would want to appear in that final document. I'm going to skip the template section in this tutorial video, just because there's a little bit more involved with the templates, like basically your example letters, and we can talk about some of the improvements we've made in that in just a moment. But essentially, unless you want to add your own document template, from that step of reviewing the documents is simply drafting your letter. So for this is, I believe, an EB1 example, and I know the view is a little zoomed in here, but essentially the first step is just selecting the evidentiary categories for this specific process. Every process will have different, steps, but we call this the attorney in review, the legal professional in review stage, where you are giving certain, you're selecting your specific evidentiary categories or hardship areas, and then we call it the review stage. So there's a lot of information that's coming from the documents you provided. You can now, in this step, go in and confirm very specific ones that we think are vital before going into like the full draft, before going into that full draft flow. And so we'll provide the relevant information. We call it review key data, and then from there it will draft the document in sections. We've already received a ton of feedback on this aspect of the product, right? Like we're not super focused on the interface in these early stages. We really just wanted validation in terms of the quality of the outputs. But now, since we believe that we've found that validation, we are moving completely to product improvement and want to, basically give users the option. As soon as you click on confirm those edits, you will get, our hope is like you can actually just generate the whole file, right? Instead of going section by section. We thought initially this would be a good kind of flow. But again, we want to essentially improve this into a single kind of text editing tool within the platform. More to be released in the near term on that. But essentially at this point,
even with that, it's still, as it exists right now, it's still a good place for attorneys to kind of review each section before we get that next one. So if you make any changes in there too, the AI is actually going to look at each one of those sections before it drafts the next one for you. So it allows you to kind of, basically before you get that final document, to kind of get eyes on review for it. But again, this will be changed in the near future. But for the time being, use it as we have it set up, and any other feedback we get on that is obviously welcome as well.
Yeah, for sure. And so basically I of course skipped a lot of those steps. There would obviously be more. I only showed the introduction, this introduction section. But there will obviously be, based on the number of evidentiary categories that would have been selected in this example, there would be several more click-throughs, reviewing that documentation. And then ultimately it would get you to a point where you could download this document download the final brief, like an example of what I just showed you, as a Word file. So that's again, like kind of like a assisted tutorial kind of video. I thought that might be more meaningful than that might be more meaningful than, us like walking through steps and having loading and uploading files and all that good stuff. But I will actually switch over now to Visa Law. Great. So now I'm in product, and we can actually dive into some of these steps. So as I mentioned, right now at the very end of the draft stage, there is a Word file that you download, right? It'll be a downloadable document. It'll be available here in the future too, if you ever need to get back to it. There is an optional sort of last step, which is if you want the system to go ahead and assemble everything together, it can kind of assemble that entire packet into a single PDF. This is not revolutionary tech. This is a PDF merging tool, but we can give you those sort of, dividers or tabs or exhibits, as part of that tooling. And, we're making some decisions around what's the best point in time to give the user this advanced reviewing capability. And we believe it is actually before the packet assembly. We really want user feedback on this before we implement this massive improvement to the interface. We think what should happen essentially is like once you draft the document, you should have a point in time to review that document real time, select sections, rewrite those sections or edit those sections, and then it becomes a workflow of just reviewing, right? So then you can have the attorney review, or the person internally at your firm who's doing the reviewing can get that notification, can review the document, approve it, boom, packet assembly, right? It's going to pull in all the other supporting documents, pull in all the other materials, and just present that to you in like one nice package. In theory, we can do that today. We just don't have as many of these like pre-built out interfaces and kind of like approval workflows. So all of that will be in kind of this next build. And as I kind of wrap up the sort of demo here, the last thing I wanted to mention is I know we've had a few questions around this reordering stage, and let me go to a project that actually has a few documents.
I would say, and another question that has come up too, I was just going to ask you, is in terms of what documents users can upload, what are they limited to in terms of what they can include in here?
Yeah, so the type of file is I think we accept PDF, Word, most document types, images, text, tables, in terms of like Excel, CSV. I don't know if there'd be another file type that would be relevant for like supporting documentation.
Yeah, no worries. That's just more so.
But maybe
know.
Yeah, the question was more related to like, does it profile or tag those documents? And the answer is yes. Mm-hmm. What we don't allow at this point, what we don't allow the user to edit are the specific sections of the brief that are going to be relevant for that document. So what we have the AI doing behind the scenes is identifying like, oh, this is a resume. This needs to be informing the introductory section in this evidentiary category, in this evidentiary category. But what we're doing is we're going to shift that back and put the power sort of in the user's hands. And this is, again, not currently active in the product, but basically give the user the ability to determine which section of the brief or of the petition that document should be used in. And so not just being able to upload, delete files, which we obviously was an oversight on our part. I think there was a question about deleting files, and yes, I will raise my hand. That was my fault. Everyone can make mistakes, including just a simple ability to like delete a file. So that's when you're wondering why there isn't a delete button, you can like send me a note. It's like, Josh, what were you thinking? We all make mistakes, but it will get there. We've already released it into our staging environment. We'll get it there early next week. I appreciate you being patient with us on it. Again, moving from beta into preview. These are the things we're fixing and improving. So yeah, the most improvement I think you'll see in some of these new changes will be primarily in the ordering, like the sort of exhibit list building area, as well as the overall performance and load time. What feedback we've gotten so far is when you actually enter into this final stage of drafting the document, there's a ton of processing that happens. A lot of the processing right now is delayed until you start this actual operation. So you'll see there's this like scrolling kind of load bar, and then there's like a horizontal load bar that comes up and it loads. All of this will be done behind the scenes at an earlier point in time, and there won't be as much of this sort of like, okay, loading. Hopefully, it will essentially be happening in the background. So when you go into the draft button, when you go in to actually draft the brief, It'll be more or less just, okay, here you are. You're selecting your things. You're going on. You're going to review that final pieces of information. You're going to draft your document. So I know I've kind of stayed in the demo area for a minute, so I'll just go ahead, stop sharing and kind of get back to these slides here and kind of wrap things up. So, in terms of roadmap, I've already talked about a lot of the things that we're working on right now. We're moving to sort of like a preview, what we're calling preview. What does that mean? To be honest, I don't really know, other than essentially it's going to be out of beta in terms of we believe the product is ready, and we want to basically open it up to a wider audience of users. I think that's probably how I would define it at this point. It's open to a larger kind of section of users, especially some of the features that we maybe haven't pushed out yet that we're like kind of wrapping up and wanting to make part of the overall product. I mentioned this idea of kind of like a text editor, called a rich text editor. That's something on the near term for us that we find is really important. Also, this sort of idea of document tags. We've talked about batch support letter drafting before. It's obviously been something that's been requested. It's definitely on our short list. And we can do some of these things. And I also recognize one thing I skipped during our demo is the template builder. And if someone is really interested in this, please follow up with us. But previously in the template area, when you uploaded your example, we actually required our users to copy and paste sections of the documents. Now we have been prototyping the ability for you to just upload your entire, basically if you have a petition letter or an example letter that you want to upload and use it as context, you can just upload that letter. The AI will then sort of intelligently determine which sections of your letter match the sections in the AI drafting engine. So it's like, okay, this is the introduction section. Okay, this is the evidentiary category. This is this one. So it will actually line it up for you, so you don't have to manually copy and paste in the various language from your letters. So it just streamlines that entire template building process. So that's one thing we didn't necessarily get a ton of time to go into today, but I just wanted to highlight that is currently available. As when you go into the template builder option, it'll say beta, upload your example there, and you'll have the option to do that. But just to kind of quickly glance over some of these other roadmap items, so from a security standpoint, we're well on our way to SOC 2 Type 2 compliance, and that will happen in spring of 2025, just to have, again, that sort of observation period throughout the early part of the year. Expanded process types, we have various process types: cancellation of removal, RFE, and asylum, all kind of slated to be released in the coming months, in some phase, likely, again, just this early beta introduction. A new interface, which I think will probably happen in the third quarter of 2025. It could be sooner, but hopefully at the very latest in Q3, we would have essentially an entirely new interface for drafts. I mean, everything you see today will be, again, the 1.0. We'll be introducing 2.0. And that's why I said we're really focused early on the quality of the outputs. If we think the quality of the outputs is validated, we're moving directly into, okay, let's build, let's make this thing really intuitive and easy for people. Also, part of the later year strategy is part of this idea of, I wouldn't necessarily call it research, but evidence gathering. This idea of basically one of the key challenges that folks face when you're drafting these letters or putting these petitions together is frankly finding all the articles, finding all the relevant information. And so we've been thinking really critically and brainstorming about how we could build some kind of tooling or interface or combine what we're doing in the research area with what we're doing in drafts to kind of combine, kind of bring all of that together so people can actually maybe you can search areas of the internet or search areas online to find that information and quickly pull it in a meaningful way. Perhaps. So that's all, again, a little early. I was talking about some of these approval workflows, some strategic integrations, and then, ultimately at some point, far out, our roadmap is ultimately to allow users the capability to customize to a greater degree than I think any of us are really even thinking about right now, which is like you can create your own custom drafts, right? So that's the ultimate timeline, and I'm not gonna go into any more details other than to say we are about to make a major announcement in terms of like an integration partnership that I think a lot of folks will find meaningful. And I just want to say thanks for your time. I did not put the drops mic thing in there. That was a template. I just saw that. So I'm not dropping my microphone. I apologize.
You're really excited about that partnership.
Yeah, I can rip the webcam off my monitor and just throw it, I guess. But no, yeah.
Josh, how are we going to share the sample documents? Will those be links with the video?
Yeah. So the documents that I shared, basically what I'll do is I'll share this slide deck and I will put links. I'll put links in the, like, basically if you click EV1A, it'll be a Google Doc link, basically is how, or Google Doc link, but for both of those. So I'll go ahead and stop my share.
Yeah.
Essentially kind of leave it up to the floor. Yeah, I've gotten some questions. Let's see. I know we didn't really spend any time on the research area today because we were like really focused on drafts. And know it's a new feature set that we wanted to display for everyone to see. Some improvements we made to legal research, I'll just sort of highlight them at a sort of general level, are like inline citations. So actually, you know what? I'm just going to share my screen again if that's okay.
Do it really quick. Yeah. I said we got time.
Feel free to keep asking questions while I have everyone. It won't feel like revolutionary. In fact, I'm actually going to share this tab instead. It's not going to feel revolutionary, but I think to our users, it'll be meaningful. So if I go into the chat, let's see.
And even since the last time we've done one of these, we've added a lot of content too as well that we can share. And that's, even showing off right here, kind of how things are separated, right? So we have our own robust library. We do have all of the case law as well. Statutes and regulations and ethics are all split up in here. So you can kind of be more specific when you're doing the legal research side of things as well. So this really gives a lot of opportunity for you to decide, what makes the most sense. And, when you're actually searching these up, and those inline citations will be included for most of these, if they're not already in there in the near future as well, which is what Josh is about to show you.
And shout out, I know I see somebody, I saw a question from one of our content providers, John from Open Laws. Shout out to Open Laws. They provided all of our content for statutes and regulations. And this is, some really powerful tools that we've just released in beta. So we have case law and we have statutes now, just again, extending beyond the scope of immigration specific content. So you can select a jurisdiction and of course include federal, and it'll cite, that material and give you an output. So, and of course in the case law area, it's very similar. You'll have a much, the full list of filters, right? So districts, specific districts, state, and of course the Supreme Court and circuits are all available kind of in that more broad legal AI search. But if I were to go back into immigration, what I wanted to show you, and this will be true of all of our research capabilities, is essentially inline citations. Historically, we've just sort of had this little blurb at the end that shows you kind of like all the different, there's just like sort of this drop down. You can click into all the different things that are all the different sources that are relevant. We'll still have that there. It'll still be there for you as reference. But we now will be using inline citations. So every sort of section of the memo and branch of that response will be cited to a specific source. And obviously you can click into that specific source and go directly to it. And sort of again, I'm not necessarily a fan of iframes. I hope in our new, we're very hopeful in our new version of this, it will be more embedded into the product. But it will take you to that specific page where you could just see the references here and also click into them. So I know folks have been asking for a long time. It's like, so what specific information did it use for that section, or what specific information did it use for that response versus just like this more generalized source material? Well, now you'll know. You can go into a specific inline source. So that's just a small, again, something we've been building up to for a while. I would imagine starting as early as next week, this should be readily available in the platform. And again, this is for immigration, case law, and statutes. And I imagine it will be for the ethics kind of area as well, but definitely for all the case law and immigration data set. So yeah.
That's great. Do we have a timeline for when the new citations will be in there? Someone just asked, so I'll ask you.
You're talking about inline citations likely next week. We've already released the product. Generally speaking, in our entire staging environment, we've tested it for weeks. It seems to be working effectively. Some of the prompting we had to modify, but generally, yeah, it should be. I would hope by next week we can have the inline citations there.
Great.
And I think we'll allow a method for users to turn it on and off because, perhaps there's something that, I don't know, it's a new feature. It could work. It may have issues. And so someone was asking, how do we get to the case law? So that's basically when you go into a new sort of research chat. So if I share my screen really quickly, I'm just looking at these questions that are coming in. I just saw.
Yeah, no worries.
There are two ways you can get to a new research chat. You can either click new chat in the chat area, and that will, I'm just intuitively clicking past. That's probably why you're asking the question. So
it's in legal research.
New chat, there are 3 cards. We had a user ask yesterday and actually had been confused because they were using Private GPT instead of legal research to ask research questions. Private GPT is just a secure version of ChatGPT, right? Like this is not research. Legal research has a proprietary data set in the immigration law library. And I think maybe I'm answering your question without answering your question. So new chat, legal research, click legal research, and then you'll see your full selection of like different options. So case law is listed there. Statutes is currently separate. We do have a plan. Ultimately our goal is to merge these together. So you have case law and statutes as one. But then the immigration, this is our proprietary data set, which we manage and maintain. You can also go down here to this little categories option if some of you have not seen this yet. So you can click categories and you can actually select more particular areas of content, right? So by default, we always select primary and secondary materials. And so you can kind of dive into these further if there was something specific. Maybe you only wanted to see maybe like the practice pointers from AILA. You could unselect these things and unselect that. Or you could, if you only wanted to see like AAO decisions or cases, you could select that. We've separated out that entire content library as its own. We've been adding some additional data sets. So like the DOL wage data, we're trying to get some of these data points in there so users can interact with them. But by default, we always select primary law and some of our trusted publications as part of the research output. That was kind of an additional. I think it's just sort of like extra.
No, it's good. I would say it's always good so that people are able to know where everything is and where to access it. I think that having that somewhere that people can go, oh, I know how to do that is always always helpful as well. No, this was great. I think that I don't think we not seeing any more questions right now in the chat though, but it seems like we have a lot of people that are tuned in. So for anyone interested in either signing up or using drafts, what's the best way for them to get in contact with us?
Yeah, so they can reach out. Obviously, if you have an interest in like a demo, I would just encourage you to reach out. You can always contact us at info@visalaw.ai. You can also go to our website. There's a contact us form. That form will just make sure it gets sent directly to the right people, and they'll respond really quickly with maybe finding an available time to meet. I just want to say before we get off, because I know we're right at time, I just want to say thanks to all of our folks who've been using the product. We're really close to a year in. This product is not even quite a year old yet, and we've seen a lot of early success, and great things have happened. And then like we've also had challenges and trials, just like any other business. But I would say I've been really encouraged by how open to innovation, right, that immigration lawyers have been. And it's honestly in a lot of ways reaffirmed, my belief in kind of just how amazing the work is and the folks that are in the immigration space. So this will be the kind of last public webinar we do before the holidays. I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday season and can be restful and I think restful is enough, right?
Yeah.
If it's just restful, I think it'll be a successful holiday season for all of us. But yeah, I really
I'll say it's year one. It's year one. I think we're doing what we need to be doing.
Yeah, or at least we think we are. We probably aren't, but at least we think we are. Maybe sometimes that's all that matters. But yeah, we'll see you all in 2025. And again, if you have any questions or interested in learning more about the product, just reach out to us, visalaw.ai, or contact us at info@visalaw.ai. And one of the Joshes will be in touch.
And this recording will be available on YouTube?
Yes, after the call, the recording will be available, I believe, at least on LinkedIn and YouTube. And perhaps we'll just include a link in our next newsletter we send out too.
Yep. Perfect. Well, thanks so much for joining us, everyone. I really appreciate it. Bye now.
So long for now.